Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about what else? The Jack Smith report. There are going to be detailed discussions of this and many different aspects of it over the course of the next several days. Rather than drown you in an intensive seminar, I'm going to hit some of the high points and give you some of my personal observations. And then we will hold for probably follow-up YouTubes a few more points. So bottom line points. First, remember, in October, Smith presented to Judge Chutkan a very long, detailed chapter and verse account of the indictment by way of arguing that the evidence in it did not run afoul of the Supreme Court's immunity principle. As a result, there's really not much by way of new revelations, and certainly not new revelations as they concern Trump. He didn't hold back in that October document. There are a few new interesting things. So, for example, there's some, I think, correspondence that he's only just gotten after prolonged litigation involving Scott Perry. For example, texts between Perry and Jeff Clark at the department. They're also, to me, the most important new stuff, and I was primed to look for this, is Smith's explanation of why he didn't bring certain charges. The regulations tell him he needs to explain to the Attorney General his prosecution decisions, both positive and things he decided not to do. And the charge of 2383, 18 U.S.C. 2383, insurrection, has always been hovering around this case in a sort of loose way. You can certainly describe what Trump did as insurrection or aiding or abetting insurrection. And the really important feature of that law is, had Trump been convicted of it, he would have been barred from future higher service. So it would have served the same function that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment would have done. So everyone was pretty focused on that. Smith explained the extreme paucity, rarity of precedent under it, how it's fraught with First Amendment problems, how the term insurrection itself was in the actual laws or precedents that we have usually required an actual overthrow, at least of some part of the government, and this didn't happen, and that attempted insurrection or aiding or abetting an insurrection is basically not a charge that's not in the annals of 2383. So that was a persuasive and new account of why he hadn't brought that. Also new was discussion of the potential culpability of the co-conspirators. There are a number of them set out in the January 6th indictment, and they, of course, are not out of the woods by the mere fact of the Trump dismissal and the Supreme Court's immunity determination, but you have to expect that Trump and Pam Bondi, if she's confirmed, will put the kibosh on those going forward. But some of that is new. Okay, so what do we have other than, what does that leave? Well, also, there's new or comprehensive, for the first time, narrative about the investigation, the different steps and moves they made, including quite a lot of litigation that to date had been sealed and we didn't know about, basically litigation over privilege. And that is under seal when it's undertaken because you don't want to vitiate the privilege. and if it exists now, the litigation record of Smith's office was very strong here, and just in general, here, but kind of across the board, the claims made by Trump and his team of privilege were really far-fetched, and the courts did not give them much suasion at all, and in some points began to give them back-of-the-hand treatment. That's in here. And then there's a final letter that an exchange of correspondence between Trump's lawyers, a long screed saying don't release the report, asking Garland not to, and Jack Smith's response to that screed. And that, I think, it's not just new, but important, because the screed embodies everything that Trump will be saying going forward, and that he already said. He came out of the box following the publication of the report with a total unhinged, crazy diatribe. Deranged Jack Smith was unable to successfully prosecute the political opponent of his boss, crooked Joe Biden, so he ends up writing a report that the Unselect Committee of Political Hacks, that's supposed to be the January 6th committee, illegally destroyed and deleted evidence, and blah, blah, blah. And the final point, which is in this letter as well, the voters have spoken, 2 exclamation points. And that really seems to be his substantive defense that you can only hope history firmly rejects. Among other reasons, it's so inane. It's a complete non sequitur. But you have in the letter also from Emil Bove, Trump's lawyer, to Smith, the claim that he's been exonerated, and a very firm response from Smith to that letter saying in no way was he exonerated. This is the sort of final back and forth. And Smith, in his final sentence, is calm and decisive, as he says, as the office explained in its dismissal motion, the department's view that the Constitution prohibits the prosecution is categorical, but it does not turn on the gravity of the crimes charged, the strength of the government's proof, the merits of the prosecution, all of which the government stands firmly behind. And that leads to the sort of main point I want to make, that I think is, what this report will serve to do with its somewhat its snippets of new evidence, but basically it is, and this is why we really, really needed it, the official statement of the U.S. government that really lays out with no punches pulled. I mean, I say there's nothing new in there, and that's right, but remember how incendiary the old stuff is, including, just one detail, when he hears that, Pence is in danger, he's totally indifferent. I mean, it paints a damning portrait. We knew that already, but this, you will have going forward Trump's crazy screeds, his attempt to bury things, but now we have this formal report akin perhaps to the report of the commission of September 11th, or the Warren Commission. Here you go, future generations and even current population of the U.S. who seemed indifferent to this all. But here you have in chapter and verse the account of the most serious by far attempt of any president to defeat the peaceful transfer of power, the absolute essential feature of democratic rule. And, I don't think it's accurate. I hope it's not accurate to say that the American people were indifferent to the whole thing, rather than it just kind of went into the background or created so much noise. And if that's your view, if you're even a Trump supporter who's not a crazy anything Trump says goes kind of propaganda proponent, you really have, for, library formal reference, an overall account of conduct that is terrifying, that is a direct assault on the Constitution, that is a complete, nasty, vicious story about Trump and his obviously, including statements and chapter and verse that showed he knew he lost, he knew he was lying, it was all bullshit. And so, as I say, there'll be much more to flesh out about the report, but in its basics, that's the new stuff, and it's really the fact of it, the formality of it, the clear, cogent, lucid, calm statement to counterpose to Trump's frenetic and feverish and false accounts. That is what's really important here. We now have the entry of reason and of the government and of sensible people anywhere who care about the evidence that shows that Trump, however improbably he ascended again to the presidency, is a constitutional villain of the first order, in fact, unique in the annals of American presidents. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.